boys and girls, cats and dogs. We are an inclusive channel here. And today I have David Philman with me. He is known as Knitting Sarastro on Instagram. He is a bass. And I really got excited when I saw his name because Sarastro is from the Magic Flute, which has played a big part in my life. I mean, my blog is called Tamino File, after all. Well, one of my blogs is. So anyway, tell us about yourself, David.
My name is David. I live in the Twin Cities here. I live in Minneapolis. I'm 29. I'm going to be 30 in October, and I'm currently in my last semester at the University of Minnesota. I'm finishing my master's in vocal performance.
Cool, cool. I like um, Minnesota. Um, I spent part of my childhood there, actually. And I once did, ever heard of the Wesley Balk Institute?
Yes, I did their summer program actually in 2015.
I did it in 1988. A long, long time ago. I'm sure Wesley is no longer around, but it was great. It was a wonderful experience. So, you knit, and you have some really great pictures on Instagram. Um, you also crochet, I think, as well, because I've seen some amigurumi um, work on your Instagram as well. So, how long have you been doing that?
The amigurumi,
The
or
knitting and crocheting.
okay, sorry. I actually learned how to knit all the way back in 2012. I took an intro to arts class at the Hibbing Community College. So I'm from Hibbing, Minnesota. I'm from the Iron Range originally, born and raised. Um, for some reason, in one of our classes, we did crochet and I just couldn't get the hang of it. But for some reason, I thought about trying, why not just try knitting? I don't even know what led me to the decision to try it necessarily, but I remember going to Walmart and buying just some knitting needles and some yarn and watching YouTube videos. So my overall teacher was YouTube. Um, I made one scarf which I gave to my dad, and so I had been working on that. Right, I moved to the cities here actually in 2013. That was when I started my first semester at Augsburg, and that was where I actually did my undergrad. But I after that I didn't do it anymore. And then I think it was March of 2018. This was I think it was when the Winter Olympics was happening in Seoul, Korea, and they were doing an interview with the Finnish ski team, and the they were knitting during this interview. They were all just knitting scarves, and why are you doing that? Well, it's a great way to relax. And so this kind of, and for me, I deal a lot with stress and anxiety. I thought, I really need to get back into it. I think that would really help me. So I happened to be in a Michael's store with my parents were down to visit. We were looking something at some fun things for my niece and nephew, and I just decided to get some yarn and some needles again, and then I just didn't stop. I didn't expect to get this far when I took up knitting again. I just thought, maybe make a scarf or even maybe learn how to make a hat. But now I'm doing socks. I'm doing working on a shawl right now. I'm doing amigurumi, and it's just I look at myself now and I'm thinking, what the heck just happened?
Yeah, I've seen quite a few pictures of socks on your Instagram too. Oh, that must come in handy. Um, those cold winter nights.
I well, and I think for me too, there's a certain historic connection too, where it's just you can't talk about the history of knitting without talking about the history of socks. And I think it's just it really kind of harkens back to that. I mean, you think of like the knitting guilds of like the 13th, 14th century. You and just the like I recently am trying to kind of get a handle on null binding. You know, the ancient like some people call it kind of Viking knitting, and that's what how they would make their socks was with this sort of art null binding. But my what was it? My great grandmother Ilmi, she was from Finland, and my dad is one of five brothers. They were all born and raised in Hibbing on the Iron Range, but she would knit hats and socks for them. So
Cool.
there is that at least little brief familial connection. My grandma Helen, she and that was her mother. So both of her parents came from Finland. Um, she was the only grandparent that I actually knew growing up, and even then, she had passed away. I think when I was around 3 or 4. But my earliest memories are of her. Um, a big part of what I'm passionate about is Finnish music and Finnish culture. And for me, it's almost kind of like a way of honoring her. For my senior recital, I'm actually doing a set of songs by a composer, Toivo Hula, who was actually a student of Jean Sibelius. He was actually his first composition student. And for me, when I'm singing Finnish music in particular, there's a part of me that honors her. And I got to do a lot of wonderful things that I know would have made her proud.
That's excellent.
If I ever
Cool.
get onto a tangent or anything, I apologize.
No, tangents are
If
great.
I talk too much, forgive me.
No, no, actually, um, you're doing great. Sometimes, sometimes I talk to people who are a little shy, and it's hard to draw them out. But I think you're doing just fine. I hope you're relaxing some. Um, but it's yeah. I mean, as I said, I just want you to be comfortable. Um, so, is the Finnish language difficult? I've never studied a Scandinavian. Well, no, I did study a little bit of Danish, but
I I've made the only attempts I've made at learning Finnish is more just like using phone apps here and there. I think Duolingo finally added it, but you won't. I don't think Rosetta Stone even has one for it. It's I think it's something like where German has like four language cases, Russian has six, and then you get to Finnish, and it's something like 12 or 15, where it's and I think a teacher of mine, I think, who had studied it said, it's not verbs that are difficult, it's the nouns. I think you have so many different ways of saying or using a noun. Um, but I mean, when it comes to singing in Finnish, it's very easy. It's a very vowel heavy language.
mhm,
And I mean, what makes it easier too is the fact that emphasis is always on the first syllable in the Finnish word, and
mhm.
every letter is pronounced.
That's cool.
You know? So even if you
Yes.
have like a double vowel or a double consonant, you pronounce that extra vowel or consonant.
So that's neat. That's neat. Um, then I imagine that you would use knitting when you're sitting in rehearsals a lot, right?
Well, it's pretty much that, and I was able to get away with it during classes because I mean the past year we were completely on Zoom because of COVID. So I would be facing forward I'd be using my computer, I'd be using my tablet, and I would like you can't see anything below me, but I would have like my knitting project. I'd have something that I was working on while listening to the class, listening to the lecture, and it just kind of that's kind of the one thing I'm a bit bummed about because that at least it helps me if I have something I'm doing with my hands. It helps me focus a little better. So I mean, we're all back in the classroom, but I only have one actual academic course left that I'm taking, and that's and it only meets on Mondays and Wednesdays. But yeah,
Well, it must have been really difficult to participate in ensembles through Zoom. or
Yeah,
to have
so
lessons?
yeah, so we did our lessons completely on Zoom, but what was nice, my teacher Philip Zavisha, he would let us use his room, his studio. So we would just go to we would go to the university. You know, we had to have our mask on and everything. We would just go to the monitor station, just ask, you know, and he would have a list of students, and we would just grab the key and we could use it. It was really nice to at least have a space to where we could practice, and then I would just have him up on Zoom on my phone or on my tablet.
Mm.
Um, it was really. I remember the first day getting back to the university, you know, for classes last week, and it was the first time I'd seen him in a year and a half, and I was so happy. And just to have our first lesson too was just it was exciting. I
Yeah.
actually just even singing with people again. I got to do my friend Ava runs the Suomi Finland 100 chorus, which started in 2017, and it was to commemorate, you know, 100 years of Finnish independence because 1917 was when they gained independence from Russia.
Mm.
We got to sing Finlandia with in orchestra hall with uh, Osmo Venska conducting, and we actually got to sing for the president of Finland. It was really exciting.
Oh, that's
But
neat.
the group gets together every year for things here and there. We had I think one of those years, the last time I sang with it was I think it was the Leif Erikson Festival. So we had different Nordic Scandinavian groups participating as well. But the reason we were getting together this summer was for a it was a Christmas album, and we just did two pieces. We did a Finnish piece, and we did an old one from I think the 1500s. It's Gaudete, Latin piece. But we got to go to a recording studio and we got to record it. It was a lot of fun. We worked with the brass ensemble, which was just fantastic. But I remember that first rehearsal, seeing everybody and just being able to sing together again. I teared up a little bit. I just that connection, that musical connection, especially, it's just so important. And to also see friends
Yeah. I
meant a
miss
lot.
that actually. Yeah. Um, yeah, actually, I was thinking as I was asking the question, even before the pandemic, I knew a lot of people who were doing remote lessons over long distances.
Yeah.
I wrote an article about that once, in fact. And I've met people on Instagram actually who are teachers who teach remotely. So I guess that wasn't as big an adjustment as like ensembles. Because yeah, there is something magical about being in a vocal ensemble.
But I mean, even with everything, we managed to do an entire production basically via Zoom. We did Monteverdi's Coronation of Popea. I got to play the role of Seneca, but we have a had students who were all the way over in China, and we had to find a way to really like do this long distance. So we would rehearse. We would use Zoom and Jamulus, which it's like it's a zero latency. So you would literally have our pianist in somewhere across town, and you would have singers at the U who were using who would use like the rooms that had the equipment set up in them, and you were singing, you were rehearsing. And what we eventually did was they would record the accompaniment and you would record the audio of you singing. And this was really difficult because this is Monteverdi. This is early opera, where pretty much it's more just long recitative, and trying to sort of do that without any kind of certain rhythm, it made it really difficult.
Hmm.
But we managed it, and what we would do later is we would go into room 99. It was like the big rehearsal room, and we would record ourselves doing all the movements while lip syncing to the audio, and then they put everything together. in post. It's really fascinating, but the fact that we were able to do a full opera production despite being, isolated as we were, it was just, I mean, even in times like these, it made it possible. I think that's just a fascinating thing that we were able to adapt to it. It was difficult, and in cases it was frustrating, but it it still just kind of blew my mind. Like I did opera workshop last semester, and my one of my colleagues I was doing a scene with, we were doing a scene from Fidelio. She was all the way in China, and we kind of did the same thing. But it's just it's kind of mind blowing that you can work with somebody so far away and just you make it work. You make it happen. But it's so nice to just to be able to rehearse with people again, just to be back in person. But at least you know that in case something like this happens again, you're able to, you know what you can do. You're prepared.
Yeah, I think that's cool. I've seen some really creative productions. Uh, they've done some really creative things just to be able to perform during this whole ordeal. Oh, there was one, I think in fact it was the Finnish National Opera that was called COVID van Pute, um, that was updated and adapted, sort of adapted with COVID as part of the storyline. That was really cool. It's on operavision.eu. If you've never looked at that, it's a great site.
Yeah, please,
Oh,
if you can, please send me the link when you get a chance.
oh, I will. I will. In fact, yeah, I'll do that. Let's see. So, how long have you been on social media?
I mean, I've been on Facebook since like 2011, but I think I'm trying to remember when I got on Instagram. Actually, I've been on it for a couple of years now.
Mm-hmm.
I think I started it in 2019 because my very first picture it's of a shawl. This was when I was learning how to make shawls, and it's just a basic garter stitch, and you do an increase after each row. I was making that shawl for my one of my former teachers at Augsburg because she had wrote so for I had to get letters of recommendation. I was applying to the master's program at the U, and as a gift and as a thank you, I made each person something. So for my teacher Sonia, I made her a shawl. I made a cowl for my voice teacher Susan Druck, and then for Philip Brunel, I made his wife a scarf. Um, so yeah, 2019 because that's when I started in the fall, and I mainly just got I was hesitant to get an Instagram. I decided to because I thought it would be a way to meet other fiber artists. I just mainly wanted to do it just to see what kind of things are other people making. Because I kind of wanted to see if like just see new things, try new things. I actually wanted to more just keep this strictly like about knitting. Um, but eventually too, it's just, why not do some fun things with music as well? My
Yeah.
my name knitting Sarastro. So in that fall, when I started, our opera workshop class was doing. It was a short production of the Magic Flute in English, and I did the role of Sarastro. And I actually posted a couple of videos from that production. They're somewhere on Instagram, but my it was a colleague of mine. Her mother came to one of the performances after and she's like, "Mom, this is our Zarastro who knits." And that's kind of where later on, when I was thinking about changing my Instagram name, I'm like, that sounds fine.
That's cool. Do you have other social media outlets?
I recently I started doing TikTok.
How was that? I haven't gotten into that one yet.
I like it. It's my friend Andy was the one who suggested I did it. I did a little short video. This was when I was so the semester had ended. It was a really long year. I was completely burnt out, and my original plan was to take a week off to go up to Hibbing just to stay with my folks, get out of the city for a while. And I ended up deciding, you know what, I'm taking 2 weeks. But while I was there, I used my dad belongs to a Finnish Lutheran church, and so Holy Trinity, and so I would go there to practice. And I decided to record a little video because I had a recording of the accompaniment to O Easy Zuntal series from many years ago when I was studying under my first voice teacher, and I decided to do a video of me. So just for quick background, I apologize. I took German vocal lit and French vocal lit, and one of the things we had to do was create split screen music videos. So we had somebody, a pianist, who would record the accompaniment for the songs that we were singing, and what we would do is we would sing it to the accompaniment, record ourselves singing it while listening, and then we would sync it up on a video editor, and then it would show them playing and us singing. And so I learned how to make that, and I decided to make a video of me singing the aria while knitting. And so you can see me sitting in, at the front of my dad's church, and I called it a knit at the opera.
I saw that one just this morning, in fact. Um, yeah. Um, that was an assignment for a song lit
That
class?
that wasn't an assignment. That was just something fun I wanted to do. I always wanted
Oh,
to do something fun like that. Just I I want to do more videos like that. It's just been a things get so busy with work and just kind of classes and everything, and it's been tough this past summer just trying to find a place to practice. I can't really practice at the house here. We have neighbors, and so it's uh, I'll usually try to find like a lot of my singing. I mean, it's become kind of more humorous now with because I do it on TikTok. Singing in the freezer. That's literally my practice room too. Just because I mean, I do my work, I do my scales, I do this and that like that's become my practice place, and people can't really hear me, which is an added bonus. I'm just kind of locked in there.
hmm. Yeah, I wondered whether that was soundproof. I used to do it uh, when I was in New York and I was an office slave, and much of the time I was like the last one there, so I would practice in the men's room. But yeah, lots of fun. Yeah, I was going to ask you about singing in the freezer. So, is that like your full-time job?
Yeah, so I'm a retail worker. I work at the Nicollet Mall Target store, um, we're the Target store right next to corporate. Um,
Right
so
next
we're
to,
corporate, so like headquarters for Target.
oh, corporate. Oh, okay. Yeah. Cool. Cool. Um, so then, that's cool. Well, then, what kinds of projects would you like to do that you haven't done yet?
Um, like knitting or music or
Either.
oh, projects I'd like to do. Like for me, my main thing that I really want to do is I want to try to better my color work. Stranded color work and knitting for me, it's more just trying to get it smooth it out. If there's anything I love, like I love one of my favorite designers is Linka Newman, who's based in, I believe, Norway, but she does these just amazing, breathtaking sweaters. Just the colors that she uses, the designs of them are just fantastic. I always dream of just owning, having a closet full of all these like just nice sweaters, and I can use. One thing I really want to do. This is I was hoping I could do something in time for my master's recital. It doesn't seem possible, but I want to. I just want to have like a series of concert sweaters. I don't like suits. I'm not a big tux person. I will wear one if I have to, but if I'm gonna sing, I want to sing comfortably, and I always feel better in a sweater.
You can make yourself a nice black sweater, or maybe like a lot. I see a lot of people in orchestras wearing basically they look like Nehru jackets. Um, so you can make yourself one of those in black. That would be fun. That would be fun. It'd be warm under the lights. Yeah.
That's something I did not think of actually. The
Or
but
you could use a cotton yarn, or
true.
something like that, or a loose stitch, but then you would want it to be sort of dense, unless you're going to wear a black T-shirt
Yeah,
underneath. Then you're going to be warm again.
I don't handle heat well. I'm not I For me, I'm a fall. And even working in a freezer, it's very nice for me. I like it. And especially just here in Minneapolis, June itself was just such a horrible month in terms of the temperature. We have in our house here, we have like one just AC unit, and I mean that thing has got us through some very warm summers, but even that couldn't take on just how hot it got. It was like straight 90s all throughout June. But I always I like I'm a fall and winter guy. I like winter. I feel more comfortable in that. And I think, part of it, I'm from northern Minnesota. I still remember, I think when I had moved to the cities, I actually went up over the holidays to visit my family, and my one of my friends was texting me saying, "Hey, dude, where are you? Like, I'm up in my hometown right now." Well, dude, thank God you're not here. It's like 15 below. I'm like, dude, it's 34 below up here. What are you talking about?
One time, I used to travel to Wisconsin a lot for work, um, and that there was one week where the forecast high for the whole week was like 10 below. But it felt colder in New York because the wind was blowing, and it wasn't
Yeah,
in in
yeah. I mean,
Wisconsin.
yeah. It's always the wind. I mean, that's the thing. It's interesting when people say, especially on it could be up to like 95 degrees. It's not so much the heat, it's the humidity. And I feel like it's kind of the same thing in winter. It's like, it's not so much the cold, it's the wind.
A damp cold is a really bad
Yeah.
thing to me. And
Oh yeah.
that, like, to me, it just goes right through you.
Yeah.
Especially, well, you don't feel the damp if it's windy, but they're both pretty darn cold.
Yeah.
I live in coastal North Carolina now, so it's doesn't get that cold. I don't really have occasion to wear all the sweaters and scarves that I make, but sometimes it's scarves. But anyway, what else was I going to ask? Um, well, you were talking about color. Do you have favorite yarns?
Favorite yarns, I haven't really. So for me, I'm on a limited budget. So for me, it's more just whatever I do a lot of smaller projects just because it's what I can afford. One of the things I always get is just the drops Nord yarn because actually one of my this was the designer that got me into color work. I wanted to do knitting Lada. I never know if it's Lada or Lota, and the only reason I say that is because I actually have a friend, a Finnish friend, Lota, but she's based in Sweden, and she does all these amazing like pop culture mittens. Like if you want a mitten with David Bowie on it, she's made it. And so
Hmm.
I actually, it was 2019. It was summer of 2019. I was doing the her Jimi Hendrix mitten pattern, And this was my first time ever really doing, I guess, fully doing like a stranded color work project, but it was also really tight because I'm a thrower. I recently made the change to doing continental style knitting, but you could barely get it on. But I've been slowly kind of experimenting and just trying to loosen up as best as possible. But I've done a lot of like her patterns and stuff. I always enjoy it. I
Mhm.
like having a smaller project that I can always take with me, and I think that's another reason why I like socks so much. It's always something that you can take on the go.
Do you ever suffer from one sock syndrome?
No, I never get second sock syndrome. I get second mitten syndrome because it's like I do the mitten and it's like I don't feel like it.
I'm working on a sweater now, and I'm like halfway through the last sleeve, and I'm bored.
No, I did a because I had gotten a I started working on a sweater this past summer and it's just I it's sad to say I just kind of fell out of love with it. I think just because I used I got some baby alpaca yarn from Knit Picks, and the color it's a color work sweater, you start from the top down and it's just I think for me the the two most important things for me when it comes to knitting something, it's just I mean, it's less, that it looks nice, but also that it's durable. That I know that this is going to last a long time. Like, let me see if I can find it. Like, this is my work hat. I wear this thing every day. Um, Story with the yarn from this. My choir teacher or my choir director, um, he and his wife went to the Isle of Man, and they brought me back a skein of yarn, which is really nice of them. So I made it into
Hmm.
a hat. This thing is over a year old, and it's lasted a long time. I'm happy with it, and I like that sort of roughness. It's not dyed or anything. I blocked it and it softens a little bit, but in even with this is the shawl that I'm currently working on. This is the Midnight in Berlin shawl. It's kind of got like a basket weave.
Oh yeah, you've shown pictures of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This was I inherited a huge stash of yarn from my knitting best friend, and it has that roughness to it. It's not dyed or anything. This is like straight spun and just I like that feeling because I know that this is gonna last me a long time.
Cool.
I guess anything I want to make sure that you know you can get use out of it for a long time. It'll keep you warm, and all that.
That's neat. That's neat. Are you usually yarn first or pattern first, or both?
Pattern first.
Hmm.
I'm more of a pattern first. I'll just because I tend to be a little too exact when it comes to uh, following a pattern. It's kind of like with me in cooking, and this is where like a friend of mine and I we kind of clash. Where it's just she's more like I think this is a tablespoon. I'll just dump it in. I'm like, but is it exact? Is it an exact measurement? Do you have an actual tablespoon? but
That's. Do you write your own patterns?
no, I do want to do that eventually. For me, I really want to find a way to kind of explore sort of blending knitting and music.
Hmm.
Um, so for me, I really sucked at art growing up as a kid. I was not good at arts and crafts. Just I like I would look at my project, like what I was working on compared to the other kids. And, I was always too hard on myself when it came to that. I could not really draw. I could not do any of that.
Hmm.
When I'm knitting though, like, and this was something that I realized where I actually have, I can actually create something that's visually beautiful, something that is lovely, and also too, it has a use, it has a purpose. Somebody can wear it. I think it's wearable art. But I would love to be able to use that in a performance. One idea I had, um, and this comes from my Finnish background. Are you familiar? Are you familiar with the Kalevala?
Mm.
So the Kalevala, it's a collection of Finnish poetry and sort of the Finnish mythology. You have the creation stories, you have like the major deities or characters, and it's itself, it's a source of national pride. It was something that really in the 19th century and 1800s, it really helped to sort of fuel this nationalism in the Finnish people. Um, but one thing I really want to do, and that designer I told you about, Knitting Wada, who does all the mittens, she started doing blankets. Like, and I didn't realize that she did them in the round, and then she'll do it in the round and she'll speak it, but they're just so detailed. I want to do something like that, and I would love to make blankets with major scenes from the Kalevala, and then actually have somebody compose a song cycle to it, like a song for each blanket, for each kind of tapestry. I would love to do something like that. My friend Ava and I, we talked about, actually right before COVID, we talked about doing like a fiber arts kind of concert just to celebrate. And one book she had found, it was called, I can't remember the author's name, A Symphony for the Sheep. And it's like these cute, it's a children's book with cute poetry about, shearing the sheep, spinning the yarn, knitting the Aran sweaters.
Hmm.
It's and having that set to music and being able to premiere it. I don't think she was ever able to really get in touch with the publisher about it, but then COVID happened, and yeah.
That sounds pretty cool. That sounds really neat. So, we've been doing this for almost 40 minutes, and I think I'm going to have to call it a day. But is there anything you would want to add? Anything you would want to close with?
If you could meet any opera singer from history, who would it be?
Wow. I would. Um, um, who was the soprano that Rossini wrote it for?
Oh,
Um, Malibran, something like that. Um, I would love that. That would be cool. Um, um, even though Mozart hated tenors, supposedly, um, there was one named Michael Kelly I read about who premiered some of Mozart's tenor roles. I would like to meet, especially if he was like the first one to do Ida Maneo. I think he was. Um, that's wow. How would you answer that question?
honestly, Herman Pry. I grew up listening to so many of his recordings, but also too, there there's this one video on YouTube of him singing Vidmung, and there's a certain comfort that you see in his face and the expression
Hmm.
where, I mean, he's probably sung this so many times, but there's that sort of joy in it as well. He just seems like the kind of singer who has this fun energy to him, but also you could just kind of grab a beer with at the end of the day. I would love to just talk with him and listen, hear his stories. I think I think above all, he's like the singer I'd probably most want if I could.
Amazing voice on him.
Yes. Oh my God.
I
He,
think I saw him sing Die live. Yeah, I spent a summer in Salzburg when I was in school.
wow.
Yeah, and the next week, Krista Ludwig did Winterreise, so
Oh,
that was quite a summer. But yeah, you know who I thought of for you? George London.
George London. I'm not,
Great bass from the 50s. Um, there were so many amazing singers in the middle of the 20th century.
Yeah,
So,
I one of my favorites actually. So my favorite composer is Ned Rorem, and Donald Graham. He did a lot of recordings for him and of his music. I'm a bass baritone, and he's a bass baritone as well. And I think just there's a certain. I think Rorem had a lot of had him. I don't know if he had him exactly in mind for writing, but a lot of his music was just always so comfortable to sing for me. But Donald Graham, I listened to so many of his recordings, and I just absolutely loved his voice. There's a certain confidence and there's a certain warmth to his tone as well. Um, just a brilliant singer.
hmm. Have you ever done the Carlisle Floyd pilgrimage? It's a
Oh
song
well,
cycle. Hmm?
no,
Song cycle. I can't remember who premiered it, but it's based on biblical texts, um, and it's just beautiful. Um, yeah, look it up if you haven't heard it. There are recordings on YouTube actually. So
yeah. If you're looking for a nice cycle to listen to, Gorham's "Flight for Heaven." It's a cycle he wrote for bass, but it's text by Robert Herrick.
hmm, that's cool. That's cool. I don't think I've ever sung any. I used to confuse Ned Rorem and Daniel Pinkham because I have done
He's
some Pinkham.
he's still
But
alive too. I think he's probably going to be 98 actually. I think his birthday's in October. But
hmm,
yeah, I just listened to over the summer. I listened to because I listened to his opera Our Town, based on the Thornton Wilder play.
hmm,
Um, it's a little slow going at first, but the third act is just it had me in tears. Just absolutely fantastic, and just such a it requires such a powerful soprano voice too. But if you're ever looking for something to listen to, I highly recommend it. It's
yeah.
on Spotify. It's
Oh
on YouTube.
yeah, I just adore the play. So I will have to look for that. And I have heard of it, but I've never heard it. So yeah, I'll have to look for that. Wow. Ah, we could talk music all day long, and I would like that, but I have to do some things, and I'm sure you do too. But I want to thank you so much for joining me. This really has been fun.
No,
Um,
thank you again for the opportunity. I feel very honored. Thank you so much.
well, I was glad that we got to do this. It's been my pleasure. Oh, if you want, send me some pictures that you'd like me to include. That would be cool.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Because if you're ever doing like a David party thing, like you talked about with Dude Yarns, like please let me know. I would
yeah.
like to be included on that.
There's another David who's the bearded yarnivore. Um, um, so yeah. Davids are pretty darn cool and highly talented as well. So anyway, thank you again, and thank you
Thank
to
you
my
again.
viewers who have listened to all of this. And as I always say, like, comment, subscribe, share, all the standard YouTube crap, and keep coming back. And I'm going to